Have you ever wondered why people actually start learning crochet in the first place? What is it that makes someone pick up a crochet hook for the very first time? Is it because they saw a cute project online and thought, I want to make that? Did a parent or grandparent teach them, passing down a skill through generations? Were they searching for a relaxing hobby to help with stress or anxiety? Or did TikTok or YouTube tutorials drag them straight down the crochet rabbit hole? I know I've wondered this before, and instead of guessing, I decided to just ask. So I made a community post right here on my YouTube channel and asked all of you what first pulled you into crochet. If you're not subscribed yet, make sure you do that because I post community questions almost every single day. We end up having some really interesting conversations about crochet, creativity, and crafting, and I genuinely love hearing your stories and experiences. Now, when I asked this question, the responses were way more interesting than I expected. Some people said they learned to crochet from their grandmother or another family member, continuing a tradition that goes back generations. Some people learned as young as 11 years old, and one person shared the most heartwarming story, a moment that ended up changing everything for them. So today we're going to talk about the most common reasons people start crocheting based on this poll and the stories that y'all shared. As we go through them, I want you to think about your own crochet journey. Which one sounds most like you? So let's get into it. The number one reason people said they start crocheting was learning from a family member. Almost half the voters said their first crochet lesson came from a parent, grandparent, or another relative who showed them how to hold the hook and make their first stitch. And honestly, that makes a lot of sense because crochet has historically been a skill passed down from generation to generation. For hundreds of years, people didn't learn to crochet from YouTube tutorials or online patterns. They learned by sitting next to someone who already knew how to do it, watching their hands, asking questions, and practicing those first basic stitches. One person in the community shared that they've been crocheting over 40 years, and now they're the only one continuing their family tradition. Their family can trace that tradition all the way back to the 1800s in Europe, when most clothing and home goods were handmade and families even spun their own yarn from their own sheep. They said that when they crochet, it makes them feel grounded in their soul, and I think that really captures what crochet can be for a lot of people. It's not just a craft. Sometimes it's a connection to the people who came before you. I'm always a little envious of people who have an origin story like that because my grandmother was actually a home economics teacher and she knew how to crochet. Honestly, she knew how to do just about everything. But my grandmother passed away when I was really young. So my memories of her are a little bit vague, and unfortunately, she didn't get a chance to teach me any of those skills. However, she did teach my sister how to bake her famous tea cakes, and we make those every single year at Thanksgiving. So in a way, that tradition still lives on in our family. Sometimes I like to think that learning crochet later in life is my own small way of connecting with my grandmother. And I joke that maybe one day we'll meet again and we'll sit together and crochet in heaven, and maybe even one day we'll make a blanket for Jesus. I also want to share one of the stories someone left in the community post because it perfectly captures how meaningful learning crochet from family can be. And just to respect everyone's privacy, I'm not sharing any names here. I didn't originally ask permission to feature these comments in a video, and honestly, I didn't think it would turn into a video until I started reading through all these beautiful responses. But here's what one person said. My late mother-in-law taught me when I was pregnant with my first son in 2003. He's 22 now. She didn't teach me about weaving in the ends, so all my early projects had fringe. She also didn't explain to me how to use the hook to pull the yarn, so I was using my opposite hand to lift the loops over the hook manually. Things got much better in 2012. She passed away in 2007 when I figured out how to really crochet. Stories like that are such a great reminder that crochet isn't just about making blankets or scarves. Sometimes it's about sharing time, knowledge, and creativity with people around you. While I didn't get a chance to learn crochet directly from my grandmother, I do hope that one day I can pass this craft down to someone in my own family because that's really how traditions continue. And even though learning from family was the most common way people got into crochet, it definitely wasn't the only reason people picked up the hook for the first time. In fact, the second biggest reason people started crocheting had nothing to do with family at all. The second biggest reason people said they started crocheting was for relaxation. And a third of the people who voted said they picked up the hook because they were looking for something calming, something that could help them slow down and step away from the stress of everyday life. And a lot of people shared that crochet helps them manage things like anxiety, ADHD, stress, and general mental overload. If you crochet regularly, you probably know exactly what they mean. There's something about the rhythm of the stitches, yarn over, pull through, repeat, that can be incredibly soothing. It gives your hands something to focus on, and your mind gets a chance to settle down for a little while. One person shared that they actually started crocheting during physical therapy therapy after an infection caused a brain injury. They said crocheting helped them cope with the anxiety caused by the medications they were taking at that time. But what surprised them the most is that they didn't just use crochet as therapy. They ended up genuinely loving it. I hear stories like this in the crochet community all the time. People start crocheting because they need something relaxing, but they stay because they discover how much they love creating something with their own hands. And in a world that moves as fast as ours does, finding a hobby that truly helps you slow down is kind of a gift. Don't get me wrong, I love watching YouTube videos and scrolling TikTok just as much as the next person. But if we're honest, that's not really a hobby. That's just consuming content, and crochet is different. Crochet is creative, hands-on, and intentional. You're not just watching someone, you're actually making something. And I'll be honest with you, my default settings run a little bit on the anxious side. So crochet, along with a few other hobbies, has done absolute wonders for my mental health. Sometimes you just need a moment where life slows down a bit, where your phone is put away, when you're not just rushing to the next thing, you're just sitting there with some yarn, a hook, and the quiet rhythm of your stitches. Crochet might be one of the best hobbies out there for pressing the brakes on life for a little while. But relaxation was not the only reason people picked up crochet. Another big reason people started crocheting is honestly one of the simplest reasons of all. They just saw something cute and thought, I want to make that. Maybe it was a cozy crochet blanket, maybe it was a handmade crochet sweater or cardigan, maybe it was a tiny amigurumi animal they saw online. Whatever the project is, sometimes that one piece sparks enough curiosity to make someone think, maybe I could learn how to crochet. And that curiosity can be incredibly powerful. Several people in the comments said that's exactly how their crochet journey started. One day they simply decided, you know what, I'm gonna learn how to do this. One person even said they learned to crochet at 11 years old, which honestly makes me feel like these kids sometimes have way more patience than adults when it comes to learning a new craft. Because let's be honest, when you first start crocheting, those early stitches can feel a little chaotic. Your tension's all over the place, your rows start slanting, and suddenly your square starts looking more like a crooked trapezoid. But seeing something beautiful that you want to make can be a powerful motivator to keep you going. Seeing something cute is what kept me on my crochet journey early on. One of the first projects that really inspired me was the Etta bag by Suzanne Mueller, which I found as a free crochet pattern on the We Are Knitters website. At the time, I was learning crochet by going to the library and watching YouTube tutorials, and my big goal was to eventually work my way up to making that bag. It felt like a project that would prove to myself that I actually learned how to crochet, and eventually I did make it, and I loved that bag. I was so proud of it, and I even filmed a video showing my finished project when I started my channel. But in a funny twist, I actually ended up giving that bag to a subscriber as part of a giveaway I was hosting early in my channel's life. And every once in a while, that subscriber will message me on Instagram just to let me know how the bag is still going strong, which honestly makes me really happy to hear. Not only that, but she definitely styles the bag way better than I ever did. And I think that's part of the magic too. Sometimes the project that inspires you to learn a new skill ends up going into the world and becoming part of somebody else's story. But even though seeing something cute inspires a lot of people to crochet, there's another modern reason that has pulled thousands of new crocheters into the craft. Of course, we can't talk about people starting crochet without talking about the internet. A smaller group of people in the poll said they picked up crochet because of YouTube, TikTok, or social media. And honestly, that makes a lot of sense. Crochet is everywhere online right now. You can't scroll for 5 minutes and not see a crochet tutorial, a beginner crochet project, stitch demonstrations, or a pattern walkthrough popping up all over your feed. One crocheter shared a story in the comments that really stood out to me. They said that they actually wanted to learn crochet for years, but kept running into one big problem. They're very strongly left-handed, and everyone around them who tried to teach them crochet was right-handed, so the traditional way of learning crochet just didn't work for them. People would try to show them stitches and say things like, just mirror what I'm doing, but their brain couldn't translate the movements that way. But once they discovered left-handed crochet tutorials on YouTube, everything finally started to make sense. I can relate to this story so much because I'm left-handed too. When I first started learning to crochet, the tutorial I was given didn't make much sense at all. As much as the teacher tried to explain and tell me just do what she was doing but backwards, it just was not clicking in my brain. If you're left-handed, you probably know exactly what I mean. Thankfully, she eventually found a YouTube tutorial that worked for me, and that completely changed the game. The best part is that I could pause the video, rewind, and even slow it down so I could really watch what her hands were doing. Sometimes I had to slow the video down so much just so my brain and my hands could keep up. And that's one thing that's really amazing about learning crochet online. Crochet used to to be a craft that you almost always had to learn from someone sitting right next to you, a parent, a grandparent, a friend, or someone in your community. But today, the internet has completely changed that. Now you can learn to crochet in so many different ways. You can learn from a step-by-step crochet tutorial on YouTube, from written crochet patterns and beginner guides, from slow motion stitch demonstration videos, and from crochet teachers and creators from all around the world. And because of that, crochet is more accessible than it ever has been before. People who might not have ever had a chance to learn this craft before can now pick up a hook and learn from home. That's probably one of the reasons crochet is having such a huge resurgence right now, especially among younger makers and people discovering fiber arts for the first time. There are simply more ways than ever to learn crochet right now. But even with all these different reasons people start crocheting, family traditions, relaxation, seeing something cute, and discovering it online, there was one story in the comments that completely stopped me in my tracks. For one person, learning crochet wasn't just about picking up a new hobby. It actually came as a way to completely change their life. And I just have to share one story with you before I wrap up this video because it is so incredible. Now, my community post already had the 4 main points that we already talked about: learning from family, needing relaxation, seeing something cute, or discovering crochet online. But someone shared a story that went far beyond those choices, and here's exactly what they said. I was down to my last $6 and living in the Caribbean only a month or so with a 3-year-old child. I saw a tourist sitting on a bench in a market square crocheting and sat down next to her to watch. We exchanged greetings, and when I asked her how she learned, she said she taught herself and told me I could do the same. She suggested that I buy an instruction book, crochet thread, and needle from the 5 and 10 cent store, early 1970s, and teach myself. I went immediately and purchased the supplies. When I returned, she had left. I sat down and read the book. I practiced the basic stitches, and after about an hour, I made a small pouch. Just as I was finishing it, another tourist came along and asked if I was a local. When I said I was, she offered to buy my pouch, as she wanted something that was genuinely made in the Caribbean, not in China. I sold the pouch for $6 and went to buy more thread. I taught myself to make hats also and was able to earn some steady income for myself. Stories like this are proof that crochet can be so much more than a hobby. Sometimes it becomes a lifeline. I've heard countless stories from crocheters who use this craft to make extra income, support themselves during a crisis, pay off debt, or even start a small handmade business. It's amazing to see how something as simple as picking up a crochet hook and some yarn can turn into such a practical, life-changing skill. That's part of what makes crochet so special. It's creative, relaxing, and practical all at once. Whether you started crochet because of a family tradition, to relieve stress, because you saw something cute, or because YouTube inspired you, crochet has the power to bring people together, calm the mind, and even change lives. But now I want to hear from you. Which of these pulled you into crochet? Did someone in your family teach you the basics, or did you learn them on your own, slowly figuring it out one stitch at a time? Or did you, like many of us, fall into the crochet rabbit hole because of the internet? Drop your stories in the comments below. I read every single one, and I love seeing all the unique ways people discover this craft. Your story might even inspire someone else to pick up a hook and try crochet for the first time. And while you're here, if you've ever struggled with unfinished projects, you definitely want to check out my video, How to Actually Finish Crochet Projects If You're Always Stuck. In that video, I break down why so many of us leave projects half done, share tips to stay motivated, and give practical strategies so you can finally finish the projects you started. It's a must watch if you want to turn your crochet whips into finished masterpieces, and it ties perfectly into today's conversation about why people start crochet in the first place. Whether you started crocheting for relaxation, creativity, family tradition, or online inspiration, this community is all about sharing stories, learning together, and celebrating every single stitch we make. I can't wait to read your story and see which reason brought you into this beautiful craft. So happy crocheting, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!